But it's okay to be nervous in doing new things. And that's all that travel is. Travel is a bunch of new things that you have to do basically all at the same time. And sometimes it's in a different language. So let's talk about that. Let's say, hey, you know what? It's okay to be nervous, but don't let those nerves keep you from taking that step.
Hey there, and welcome to the Digital Nomad Family Podcast. This is the place where families who have or want to have a nomadic lifestyle come together to talk about the highs and lows that this life brings. We celebrate the joys and support each other in the hard. So, if you are a digital nomad family or will be in the future, this is the place for you. We're glad you're here.
Hey guys, how's it going? Marissa here with another episode of the Digital Nomad Family Podcast. And we are going to talk about one of my favorite places in the world. And I have no shame in saying this. With all of the places we've gone, all the places I want to go, I have zero embarrassment by today's topic. And it's so funny because sometimes when I'm talking to people, especially other very seasoned travelers, when they find out what my favorite city currently, I'm always open to it changing, but at the moment, my favorite city, if you were to ask me where would you get on a plane and go to, I say London. And sometimes I get some looks like, really? That's where you're going to pick? And it used to kind of bug me. Like, oh man, am I not adventurous enough? Am I not connecting with what a traveler is really supposed to be? Am I not getting something that every other person gets? But finally, I've come to the realization that it is okay to be in love with whatever city you're in love with. And for me, it's London. And so today we're going to talk about London. I am going to keep it very, very basic because the whole reason for this episode is I want you to imagine you are having a conversation with someone who has not traveled outside of the US. I'll give a little context for that. Maybe this person has gone on a cruise in the Caribbean island. Maybe they have gone to an all-inclusive in Cancun or on another island. Maybe they had to do a work thing at one place in Mexico or somewhere that I'm not saying it's not getting a stamp in your passport. I'm not. But they don't have a lot of experience traveling, okay? This episode is geared for you, and you can just send it right over to them. Hi, my name's Marissa. I hope that you're listening to this. I love it when people don't have loads of experience traveling themselves, making the plans, booking the stays, figuring out how they're going to get from point A to point B. How do we make sure our phones work? What if we need cash? All of these things I love talking about. I geek out on travel. And so that's what this episode is going to be, just a little bit. I want you to imagine you're trying to get someone to go with you on a trip. And maybe you are. I am sitting here telling you this from 100% real life situation because there are two people in our life. I won't say who they are. Yes, I will. It's my in-laws. I'm okay with that. They don't care. They don't care either. We're trying to get them to come to London with us. And the reason is all of the reasons I'm going to tell you. Now, my in-laws did come down here to Costa Rica. My family is currently in San Jose. We've been here so long. Oh my gosh, it will be a year by the time we get out of this place. Please don't read into that. I'm loving our time here. I have no regrets about choosing to stay here a year. I'm currently in language school, so I'm learning Spanish in a way that I never would have learned Spanish previously. I have no regrets. It's just when you're a traveler, to say that you lived in a country for a year is like, whoa, that's a long time. And so my in-laws came and they visited us for 10 days right before Christmas. And it was amazing. And it was their first time, those of us who are more experienced travelers, it was their first time really getting out of the United States. And it was so cool. And now we're trying to get them to see like, hey, when we go back over to London, which will be happening at the end of this summer, beginning of the fall, when we go back over to Europe, London is going to be a fantastic first introduction to that part of the world. And you might be asking, why? Like, why not somewhere else? And I'm so glad you asked that question because I have 7. There's probably more, but you guys know me. I tend to talk. So I was like, hey, Marissa, limit the amount of numbers because that will just limit the amount of talking that you do. Let's be honest. I just talk. But thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate it about you guys. And so I'm just going to go through some reasons why if you are trying to help someone take a first step, or if you yourself really want to get into traveling, but you are nervous, and that's okay. I feel like sometimes people want to act like, oh, traveling is so easy, you shouldn't have any concerns about it. No, be concerned, be nervous. That's okay. That's human. Anytime we start anything new, anytime we do anything for the first time, it's okay to be nervous. Think about your very first job. Think about if you went to university. You're nervous for that. It's good stuff, but it's okay to be nervous in doing new things. And that's all that travel is. Travel is a bunch of new things that you have to do basically all at the same time. And sometimes it's in a different language. So let's talk about that. Let's say, hey, you know what? It's okay to be nervous, but don't let those nerves keep you from taking that step. Like if you went to university, you didn't let your nerves keep you from going to university. Anytime you start a new job, you didn't let those nerves keep you from starting that new job. I have 4 kids. There's a lot of stuff I'm nervous about, but just because maybe I'm nervous about my kids doing an activity for the very first time, I don't keep my kids from doing that activity. I say, okay, you know what? It's okay. Maybe they're not going to do well, but that's okay. They're going to learn from it, right? And so there's always things in our life that we're nervous about. So travel is the same way. So if you're listening to this, if someone sent you this, or if you were on Apple or Spotify or whatever, and you happen to find this episode, welcome. I'm so, so glad because I love talking to people who don't have a lot of experience packing a bag and getting on an airplane. Those are my people. So let's talk about why London is an amazing first place to go for a first-time traveler. For someone who's maybe never planned their own trip, doesn't have a lot of experience, okay? Okay, and like I said, there's 7 reasons. So I would tell you I'll go through them fast, but that would be a lie. I will go through them as fast as possible. Number 1, the flights from the United States, and this is important, all of the things I'm going to be talking about are geared towards people in the United States because that's where the majority of my audience is. If you're not in the United States, some of these won't apply to you. Sorry about that. But that's okay. Still go to London. Even if you live not in the United States, still go to London. It's fine. So, number 1, the flight is easy from the United States to get to London. And it's actually really easy to find cheap flights to London from the United States. Once you get over to the East Coast, it's a direct flight. You're done. You don't have to, it's not, we have to fly to here and then we have to fly to here. No, you're not going to Eastern Europe. You're going to London. It's stop number 1. So you get to New York, or sometimes you can be there's some really cheap flights from Miami There's some not awfully priced flights from Atlanta. So once you get to the East Coast of the United States, you get on one flight and then you get off that flight and you're there. And that's really, really fantastic. If people don't have a lot, if you don't have a lot of experience flying, navigating airports, knowing what to do with your luggage, it can be really overwhelming to just be like, well, yeah, but we're going to fly to here. And then how do we get our luggage? And do we have to check it again? And what do we do? And then there's this border patrol thing. What do I do? You just have to do it once. It's so nice and simple. You just put your bags on the airplane on the East Coast of the United States. You get on the plane and then you get off the plane. It's wonderful. And many people are nervous about those multi-leg travels. It's long. It can be uncomfortable if you're not used to flying. There's just a lot. And so this idea of, okay, I just have to go from one of these cities on the East Coast. That's it. I just get on the plane and then I get off the plane. It's like a bus in the air. It's wonderful. So the flights. If you ever have questions about flights, I love talking to people about their flight itinerary and how you're going to get somewhere. And I actually have a way, if anyone is interested in this, please just let me know. I will do consulting with people as they're planning a trip because I absolutely love this. And so if you're curious about some of these cheap flights I'm talking about, shoot me an email or find me on Instagram. Email is always better. I promise. It just is. I'm old school that way. I'm not this young gun Instagram people. I'm getting older. So email me and we can talk about flights and cheap flights and all that stuff. But yeah, the flight. Number one, the flight, getting there. Perfect. Number two, the language is the same as in the United States. Yes, there are a few variations in nouns, okay? In the United States, if you want to throw something away, you're going to say, hey, where's the trash can? Where's the garbage can? Okay, that's fine. In London, you're going to say rubbish bin. That's what you're going to hear, rubbish. That's fine. You can still say trash can. No one cares. It's the same language. And as someone that has been to a lot of countries with very vast differences in the language, that matters. And being able to just talk to someone on the bus, being able to ask for directions, being able to order food at a restaurant, it can feel very just like too much. If you're sitting there and you're like, oh man, I really want to order this, or I want to ask, or maybe I have a food intolerance or an allergy, but I don't speak the same language as them, that can feel very stressful. And as a family, as you know this, if you've been listening for a while, we have a son that does have a very severe tree nut allergy. And so there are times where I'm like, oh man, how do I make sure that this doesn't have nuts in it? And if you have that language barrier, that can be a huge stressor. And so London, you don't have that problem. You're speaking English and it's wonderful. It is so, so nice. And if you have any concerns about, oh, well, if I go to this country, a lot of people will tell people in the States to go to Italy. I'm not saying don't go to Italy. Go to Italy. Go to all the places. And they'll say, oh, but so many people in Italy speak English. Yes, they do until they don't. And in my experience, it's in those moments where you're like, I really need to find someone that speaks my language, that you can't find someone that speaks your language. And Google Translate is great, but it's not the same. And so with London, you're looking at the same language. That is nice. Number 3, I told you I'm going to try to go fast. Number 3, the public transportation makes the city so easy to navigate. And you can just pull up Google Maps on your phone and it will tell you, hey, go to this bus stop, get on this bus, here's the number, go to this subway. They call the subway the tube or the underground. Either one is fine. They're going to say, hey, go to this underground station, get on this train, ride this many stops, get off. Maybe you need to do a train, like a transfer there. Google Maps will tell you exactly what to do. I have used Google Maps in London for getting around in so many ways, from like longer trips, like I'm talking like an hour and a half on public transportation, or just a quick 10-minute, oh, we just want to pop down to that bus station and go over there. And it's never led me wrong. It's fantastic. And because of their London has the footprint of their public transportation is huge. And because of that, you actually can stay outside of London proper. And so a lot of towns, and London is one of them, you will have the proper city. So it's called London proper. And that is downtown London. It's a couple of the suburbs. But then you have Greater London. Greater London, hotel prices are a lot cheaper. Airbnb prices are a lot cheaper, and the Airbnbs are bigger. We've stayed in Greater London every time we've been in London, and I have zero regrets about that because a bus has been able to take me very, very near to my house. Now, the one thing I will say about that, like with any public transportation, unless you're lucky enough to have the bus stop right outside of your house, you are going to have to walk from your house to a bus stop a little ways. The longest walk we've had from a house to the bus stop, I think, was like a 7-minute walk, 7 or 8 minutes. So as long as you're comfortable walking and it's flat, there's no hill, like both places we've stayed out in Greater London, not hilly places. And so if you can manage a 7-minute walk, at that point, you're either walking around like a subway station, transferring trains, or you're on a bus. And that really helps with the price because London is expensive. And that's a definite downfall to the city, but being able to find these ways to save money definitely helps. And getting into Greater London, not staying in London proper, because of the fact that they have this amazing public transportation system and Google Maps works so well with it, it's not stressful. It's a win-win. It's fantastic. Again, this is something, if you are trying to plan a trip with someone and you want to talk to me, this is something I would love to jump on a Zoom call with you and be like, hey, if you've never been to London before and you're like, I would love to know a little bit more about their public transportation, go ahead and email me and I'll send you my calendar link to set up a Zoom call because it's great. I love consulting with people. Number 4, there are so many iconic places to visit just walking around London, just walking around the city, that it's so easy to just fill your day. And so you can take an entire, if you are there for, I would recommend a week to 10 days just to help you get over jet lag. You can take an entire day and just walk around and see all the iconic places. There are so many fantastic parks. There are so many famous landmarks, and they're so easy to navigate because they're huge and they're just in the city. So you're just walking around the city. And there's something about them. And it's funny because we were watching a Somebody Feed Phil. And if you've never watched Somebody Feed Phil, you need to watch Somebody Feed Phil. It's on Netflix. And it's with Phil Rosenthal. And he is so funny and his personality is so quirky. And he's just lovable. And he makes you feel like I can get to know this city just like he does. And so we were watching a Somebody Feed Phil episode and they go to London and he talks about how there is something familiar. Even if you've never been to London, while you're walking around the city, there's something familiar about it because you're like, hey, there's like London Bridge. Now, London Bridge and Tower Bridge are confused a lot. Tower Bridge is the really pretty blue one. And London Bridge is actually very boring. As far as an architectural bridge. But like, you see London Bridge, you see Big Ben, you see Parliament, you see some cathedrals. And as you're walking around, there's something very familiar about it, and it just feels like a part of your childhood. And that's something that Phil was talking about on Somebody Feed Phil, and he's so right. because of so many fairy tales that either take place in London or talk about London in a way, there's this odd connection with so many people from the United States to London that as we're walking around, we feel like, oh man, like this is just kind of like a part of my childhood. And for me, I had many different things that every time I walk around London, I'm just like, it feels very comfortable in a way because I had the fairy tales. So if you think about Peter Pan and they fly around Big Ben, right? So I had Peter Pan. I had Chronicles of Narnia, which was a huge book series in my childhood. I love Chronicles of Narnia. I love C.S. Lewis in general, but as a kid, I loved Chronicles of Narnia. And Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, one of the first things you learn is that these kids have to leave London. And so you're like, oh my goodness, like you have that connection. And then there was a third one and it just left my head. A third like fairy tale thing. It'll come back to me and I'll tell you guys what it was. But as you're walking around, you're just like, I feel like this is very, very familiar to me. And I love that. I love that so much. Now as an adult, another thing that I watch and it just brings me comfort is Downton Abbey. And there's so much about London in that series. And so that's just really cool. It's really cool to have these connections. Oh, I remember what it was. Harry Potter. Because Harry Potter is set in London. And so there's just so many things that you're just like, yeah, like London is a very commonly used city in US stories. And so that's really cool. Okay, number 5. I'm going to challenge you a little bit here. Please, please, please don't think that you have to do this, okay? But if you feel up to it, there are so many ways to do day trips or even overnight trips out of the city. Between renting a car, which you can do, but if that's too much for you, if you're like, no, then don't. That's okay. There are many buses that are very safe, totally doable. And also there are trains. And that's the wonderful thing about London. You jump on a train. It's great. You jump on a train and 3 hours later, you're in a totally different place. And you don't need to rent a car. It's okay. You can get from the train station and then you can go to your hotel in the next city, and it's great. Now, you don't have to do this, okay? You don't. But this kind of leads into number 6. Another amazing thing about London is there is something for everybody, and you don't have to break the bank, okay? Not all, but many, many, many museums in London are free. It's very similar to Washington, D.C. When you go to the Smithsonian, and all the museums that are connected to the Smithsonian are free. London has a very similar idea, okay? And you can go to the Museum of Natural History. It's a fantastic museum. You could spend hours in this museum, and it's free. And there's many other museums just in that area. They're different for different people. The Victoria and Arnold, we went in that. That's an interesting one. It's free. Personally, I'm really glad it's free because it wasn't my cup of tea, but that's fine. It was my husband and Riley's cup of tea. That's great. No big deal. But there are so many free museums in the city, and you can just walk in and you can spend 5 minutes and go, nope, that was a bust. Or you can be like, oh man, really like this one. And so there really is something for everyone. So how is that connected to getting outside the city? Because if you make London your base, you can talk to your group and say, okay, what are you interested in? You want to see some history museums? You want to see some art museums? Okay, great. There are some free ones. You want to go see some famous landmarks? Great. London has them. That's great. You want someone that wants to relax? Okay, jump on a train and you can be at the seaside in just a few hours if they want to relax at the sea. Or jump on a train and you can be in a really small little quaint town and you can have that rural, like relaxing experience depending on how you relax. I'm more of like a mountain relaxer. So like going to the sea is not relaxing for me. It's just, it's not. And we lived in Virginia Beach. And so I think I just got really used to the ocean, as weird as that sounds. And it's just not how I relax. Maybe if we hadn't have lived there, I would still be like a beach relaxer, but I'm just not, and that's okay. But I am if we can go to the country, especially if there's mountains or forest, which you can, I'm going to relax there. And so whatever your group wants, you can make it happen with a trip based in London, going to London. And then you can just decide, okay, well, we're going to take this train. Maybe we're going to go down to Portsmouth, and we're going to see some big boats. We're going to do some stuff down there. Or maybe you're going to go up north a little bit, and you're going to relax in some fields and some greenery. That's great too. Whatever you want. You want someone that wants to just be in the city. Hey, because of just all of the amazing resources that London has, as far as like its train goes, its buses, its location in the country, you really can find whatever your group wants. And that's needed when you're traveling as a family. We're a family of 6, and we all have 6 different personality types. And something that we say a lot is when you're traveling as a family, you can't just say, oh, well, the kid's like this, so that's all we focus on. No. Like this is my family's life. Now I know we're talking about just going for a trip, and that is different, okay? But when this is your life, you have to be able to fill your own cup. So for me, we need to get into mountains. We need to get into greenery. I need to get disconnected. I need to be in a place where there's no cell phone service. Like that's what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about? Like I need my kids to not even have the ability to have their iPads. Like that is for me, that's connecting. Like if you were able to listen to me talking about our Amazon rainforest adventure, that was amazing to me. Now, over 200 bug bites on my leg, not what I was hoping for, but the fact for 9 days my kids didn't have an iPad, loved it. They were so disconnected. It was just us. And so for me, yes, I love the city. I'm a city girl through and through. You will not catch me, knock on wood. Oh my goodness, I shouldn't say this out loud. You know how it is. Anytime you say something out loud, it's like the opposite happens, right? You will not find me living in the city or in like the outside of the city in a rural area again. I've done that. No, I am a city girl. I like the city, but how I relax, how I just let loose and recharge my soul is not in the city. And so if that's what you're looking for, you can find it. So that's number 6, still connected to number 5. Number 7, this one makes me laugh. London has a really bad rap for its food. And while I understand where that is coming from, it's also time for people to give that up. London and in England in general does not have awful food. And I think there's something really cool about going to London and eating some of the food, having fish and chips from just a very casual restaurant is a really nice experience. And then going to a place and finding afternoon tea, which I have the best place. Again, message me, okay? I could talk about London all day because it is my favorite city, and you can judge me for that. I'm fine with it. I love London because it gives me all these things. It gives me the ability to jump on trains. It gives me the ability to eat good food. It gives me the ability to have afternoon tea next to Kensington Garden. And that's what you should do. When you're there, you should definitely have tea once, okay? Maybe even twice if you really want to splurge yourself, depending on how long you're there, because a lot of restaurants do handle it differently, and it's really cute and it's really fun, especially if you have girls. I'm not saying that the boys don't like it, but my girls definitely liked it more. And so having afternoon tea somewhere, it's so great. there are so many iconic foods that we don't connect to London, but they are English. They're English foods. One of my personal favorites, it's called a sausage roll. And it's like a hand pie. It's like sausage in the most delicious pastry ever. And the best place to get it, at a place called the Ginger Pig. They have multiple locations. Just go to any of them. I usually get the one at Borough Market because we always go to Borough Market when we're in London. So, but the Ginger Pig spicy sausage roll, no, you'll be happy. You'll just be like, I'm going to move here. Like, not to London. I'm going to move to this. I'm going to move to the Ginger Pig. It's so good. And so go and eat the food because it is good. And there's something about eating really good food in a place where you don't expect it that makes the food taste even better. So that's really nice. Okay. So those are my reasons. Okay. I'm going to stop talking so much and just let you know London is an amazing first trip if you're not comfortable traveling or if you have a family member who is nervous to travel. Do a London trip. I think that the reasons I just gave are reasons enough. There are more, I promise you, but I'm like, no, we're going to stop at 7 because I could talk and talk all day. Also, if you go to London, please message me and ask me any question that you have. And also just tell me your itinerary because there's so much to do there that every time I talk to someone, they're like, oh, did you do this? I'm like, no, why didn't I even think to do that? Why was that not done last time we were there? And so there's just so much to do because it is such a deep city. And so let me know what you're going to do. Say, hey, here's what we're doing. Maybe you're staying in London the whole time. Maybe you're going to jump on a train. Maybe you're going to jump on a bus. I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts of what you think people should do in London because there is so much to do and you really can just customize it to whatever you want. I'm already planning our next trip to London. We have never seen a show. And so we're going to see a show at the West End. I'm really excited about that. That'll be fun because we've never done that. And there's always something new to do. And so that's definitely on our itinerary for the next time we're in London. Get dressed up and all fancy and go see something good. So I hope that this episode was just encouraging to you for a couple reasons. One, you can plan a trip with people who are nervous to travel, okay? Maybe it's not going to be London, but this is me telling you, still plan the trip. Still ask them where they want to go and plan it. And take charge. That's okay. Coming up very soon, I'm going to talk about planning trips because that's really, really good. Also, I already have an episode. I'll link to it in the show notes about trip planning. And I have a really fantastic guide to go along with trip planning. But we're going to talk even more in the future about planning a theme trip. And so let's say I was planning a trip to London. I would, at this moment in my life, if I was planning a trip to London, it would have one of two themes. It would either be a Harry Potter theme because all 4 of my kids right now are crazy into Harry Potter, or it would be a Downton Abbey theme because Downton Abbey is my go-to show. And so coming up here very soon, we'll have an episode about planning a theme trip, okay? Still listen to that, even if it's not going to be a theme trip, because there's still really helpful information in there. Okay, I promise. It's not only for theme trip planning. It's trip planning, but with a swing on it. So, if you are planning a trip, do it for people who are a little bit nervous. If you're listening to this and you really want to go on that first trip, but you're nervous, that's okay to be nervous, but do it anyways. Do it scared. Right? Like that's what I say, like do it scared. And so I hope this maybe helped you see like, oh yeah, like we can, like London is very doable. Also, if you know someone and you're trying to encourage them, shoot this episode to them. Be like, hey, here's a crazy person talking about London. That's okay. Let's go there. If she can do it, we can do it. I promise you. That's what I tell people all the time. If I can plan a trip, you can plan a trip. If I can take my family there, you can take your family there. I promise. There's nothing special about me and my kids and our family. We're just doing it. And sometimes we do it well and sometimes we do it poorly. And that's okay. You always learn. So with all of that being said, I hope you did take something of value out of this episode. I hope that you guys are doing well. And as always, I hope you continue to travel joyfully.